Suffering is like the spice of life, and we all have to be seasoned, or else we might be bland and untasteful. Like Jesus said in Revelations, "If you are not hot nor cold, but lukewarm, I will spit you out of my mouth." Because for what purpose do we live this life if only to live it uninterestingly? To never suffer, to never strive for anything, to never feel. If you were a painter, would you just use black and white? Wouldn't you want some blue sadness and some red anger? And so we get so caught up in trying to resist all of what we call negative emotions and negative experiences. And it is our own minds that create all of this unbearable suffering. The mind creates resistance and tension. And so the solution to when we are in deep suffering is to surrender and let go. To do our best to accept reality as it is without resistance. And the more we can surrender and let go, the less suffering we experience. It's like the saying, things are only heavy when you pick them up. And when you finally let go of these burdens, there's a great relief and peace. But when we're so caught up in trying to make things other than what they are, that is when trouble begins. Because how can things be any other than what they are? You can't be anywhere else but here. The idea of changing our reality is something that happens over time. But life is not experienced in time. It is experienced in the moment. So no matter what is happening, you are always here now. So resisting the present moment is futile. There is nothing that can be done. Acceptance and surrender is the only solution. It is in truth the only thing that we can do. And this does not mean that we don't change or try and make a better life for ourselves. It just means that along the journey, we aren't so caught up in what is happening in our experience, but that we are enjoying every step of the process. Do you think that the acorn is upset that it is not yet a great oak tree? Or that when it's a sapling, it beats itself up over not growing faster? This wouldn't make sense, not only because acorns don't think, but nature has the intelligence that every step along the way is equally important to the whole process. Because you cannot be an oak tree without also being an acorn. And even though you may be a sapling and want to grow faster and want to have this final destination, you cannot have that without also being a sapling. You cannot be strong without first being weak and frail. And yet we do this all the time. We beat ourselves up for not being where we want to be, rather than accepting ourselves for who we are, for where we are. We get lost in the madness of the mind in thinking that things could be any different than they are right now. And you might say, well, things can be different. We can change. What is it that you can do in this moment other than what you are already doing? Change is an idea in the mind. So the trick is to have a plan for the future, or to have a life that you desire, and at the same time accept where you are fully. That is the path to the greatest change. But if we operate from fear and pain and suffering, and try so hard to escape our current life situation, we might find ourselves somewhere else, but that doesn't mean we will find what we are actually looking for. Sure, sometimes all we want is to get away from where we are, but you forget that you take yourself wherever you go. And what most people find is that what they think the problem to be, that is, the outer environment or their life circumstance, was not actually the problem. it's not the house that's haunted, but it's the person and their own mind. And so you can go out into the world and dominate everything and get all the worldly riches, but at the end of it all, you might still not have yourself. So what is the whole point of gaining all these things without even being able to enjoy it? And all the temporary glimpses of enjoyment, they quickly fade, and you have to go on to the next thing. So it's a never-ending wheel of what is the next accomplishment. But wouldn't you rather be at peace and enjoy no matter what is happening, and then go out and live your life and gather all the worldly riches and actually be able to enjoy every moment of it? You see, everything that people truly desire is already with them, but they do not see it. So they have to go and find these things out in the world through relationships or through working on goals and dreams. And these are great things. But if one is caught in the illusion of it, then they are in for a rough ride. Because the expectation of thinking that these things can bring happiness is fundamentally false. And eventually, perhaps after achieving everything they've ever wanted, they will come to see that they are still not satisfied. And perhaps that is why people have midlife crises. And so you see, these seasons of pain are designed for us not to be run away from, but to grow through. Because growth does not happen without suffering. Pain is designed to shape us into a more powerful character, to burn away all that is false within us, and to reveal what is true. Like the fires of hell burning away our imperfections, and what is left is our true God essence. And it is only when we connect to that true essence do we find peace and joy and love that lasts. All other attempts are but a temporary, fleeting glimpse of these things. Only in humility do we come to see how this suffering shapes us. But if we allow ourselves to remain in pride, then we take this suffering and turn it into hate, and we project it out onto the world and onto other people. And that is how great tragedy is done. Sometimes the dead wood has to burn off for a new life to emerge. Sometimes the old parts of ourselves have to burn away. And of course, this is painful and this is suffering. And so it takes great wisdom to turn our attention away from our own selfish pain and suffering and see the bigger picture. See how this shapes us and causes us to let go of what is false. Sometimes the best thing we can do is hold on for dear life. And only in hindsight, looking back at our suffering, can we see its utility. But when we are in the midst of suffering, all that we can do is surrender, accept, and let go. Because all resistance only adds fuel to that fire.